Power Rangers. Just the title alone fills me with an energy and excitement. And even after 26 years since the first episode,
recruit a team of teenagers with attitudes.
the Ranger team is still passing the mantle and fighting on. Sure, at times it's just a cheesy toy commercial, but that cheesiness can be pretty charming and heartfelt. But within the last 2.5 decades, there have been occasional episodes that have dealt with surprisingly unsettling themes, or have been visually shocking. In fact, Power Rangers is no stranger to themes of vengeance, death, and curses. So to celebrate over 25 years of Power Rangers episodes, let's check out the top 6 darkest Power Rangers episodes. And of course, these sort of lists are more fun with a good friend of mine. He's a bit of a master of dark.
Hey Strider, it's great to be back. So today we're checking out Power Rangers.
Hey, welcome back, George. We sure are. Do you feel up to it?
Sure, this should be interesting.
Great, let's go. Chase into Space from Power Rangers Turbo. This episode's essentially just one big downer, but simultaneously an epic conclusion to the Zordon era of Power Rangers. Divatox hires the invincible Golden Goyle to annihilate the Rangers, but this time they almost lose. And although they eventually manage to destroy him, it costs the Rangers both their Megazords. Gone! Kaput! Goodbye Megazords! But wait, there's more!
Immediately following that, the power chamber is actually breached by the entire Divatox army, and we watch it blown apart piece by piece.
But wait, there's more! This also destroys the Rangers' powers, leaving them practically helpless against the army's onslaught. But wait, there's more!
Oh God! Haven't they suffered enough?
We then get the news that apparently Zordon was defeated on a far-off planet.
Zordon has been captured.
Well, this day has been one for the books, hasn't it? Essentially, the episode Chase into Space isn't just a sinking boat. It's like your boat spontaneously exploded, then turned to ash, and then burned down the forest around it. And within the charred remains, you find an overdue parking fine and a gas spill. Everything that could go wrong in this episode goes wrong. And via Divatox, no less.
Run them straight into the ground! Today the Megazords! Tomorrow!
I mean, I think her actor's fantastic at her role, but she's a freaking space pirate, not an emperor like Lord Zed, or even an evil witch like Rita.
There's a level of confrontation and intimidation to this episode in seeing what is essentially sacred ground broken into.
The power chamber has always been a sacred sanctuary for the Rangers for 5 seasons. To suddenly see it ripped to shreds then torn to the ground is heavy. I mean, this episode is epic and it's got great storytelling, but it's still grim. But on the plus side, it did lead us to Power Rangers in Space. And for number 5, The Power of Pink from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Yikes, even the wiki has a big red warning on it, warning us of a character dying and themes of death in this episode. Basically, this is the first time in Power Rangers history that a Ranger outright dies on screen. Kendrix, the Pink Ranger.
Sadly, she was killed off because the actor, Valerie, had been diagnosed with leukemia. She was preparing to undergo chemotherapy, so she was understandably written out of the season.
Yeah, as for the story of the episode, Psycho Pink, an evil version of Pink Ranger, is out to assassinate Kendrix with the Savage Sword. Ranger fighting ensues against the Lost Galaxy equivalent to Putty Patrollers. After the fight, a furious storm begins. Kendrix charges into the storm and shatters the Savage Sword in a massive explosion. And just like that, the Pink Ranger is disintegrated and dead.
Well, technically her spirit's in the Quasar Saber now, but because of her chemotherapy, she had to be written out of the show.
She would want you to carry on. You know that.
The treatments were successful though, and Valerie is now leukemia-free.
But Valerie decided to leave acting afterwards anyway. Instead, she went on to create an interior design company, though she was resurrected in the next season and reprised her role for a guest spot. Number 4. Frax's Fury from Power Rangers Time Force.
To one day get revenge!
I'd say this is easily among the most serious episodes from the entire franchise. A mass-spreading, deadly epidemic rapidly spreads through Silver Hills City.
Both adults and children in the city start dropping like flies, with gruesome bites forming on their necks.
Essentially, this monster of the week gives such painfully venomous bites that victims are in so much pain they can't even cry out for help. In the show's words,
"The pain from his bite was so immense I couldn't even cry out for help. As his venom rushed through my veins, my flesh began boiling and mutating right before my eyes."
In fact, the mutation is so severe that they need to take the antidote or else the victim dies.
It's actually a pretty morbid episode for something like Power Rangers, but Time Force was one of the more darker seasons in the franchise.
Yeah, it wasn't that uncommon for Time Force to deal with themes such as death, implied racism, and morally grey characters. Anyway, Ranzik, the criminal mutant villain, gets bitten, but he's saved by a doctor who offers him the serum. But Ranzik then proceeds to take the serum and burn the doctor alive. Jeepers, that is one lousy thank you gift. Personally, I would have sent flowers. At least maybe a thank you card. Anyway, I like how Frax's Fury explores some of the damaging fallout hatred can bring. It also gives a more compelling backstory to Ranzik, making the villain much more multi-dimensional than your standard Power Ranger villain. Even the title of the episode is in reference to Frax's burning hatred of Ranzik and his cruel betrayal.
In fact, it turns out the Doctor is still alive and preserved himself within Frax. During the fire, he basically mutilated his own charred body so he could live on as a robot.
Which leads Frax to break the last of Ranzik's serum, finishing the episode on Ranzik screaming in pain. Yowza. This is also probably the only time we see the show explore the dark connotations of a city suffering from an epidemic.
And it's pretty grim to see the population crumble under this venomous mutating bite.
But it gets even more confronting to see the Rangers struggle, incapacitated and dying from this horrible venom. Fortunately, Wesley, the Red Ranger, manages to convince biolabs to reproduce the antidote he found from Ranzik, saving the lives of the city and the Rangers. It was a dark but powerful and at times moving episode.
Let's go save the city.
And the third darkest Power Rangers episode is Wait and See from Power Rangers Turbo. And here we see the Power Rangers deal with anorexia when Pink Power Ranger Catherine becomes anorexic. We start the episode with Kat performing a ballet tryout, and, well, this young lady is among the most rude, superficial, and stuck-up snobs I've ever seen.
Kat, I think your audition was excellent.
Oh, I'm sure you'll get a part. There are lots of other good parts out there for girls with your build.
Her comments have a strong effect on Catherine, and sadly, as a result, Pink Ranger Kat begins practicing dangerous anorexic habits.
Hey, Kat, aren't you gonna eat?
No, I'm not hungry.
Well, that's a new one. You're always up for something to eat. What's wrong?
Well, it's just that with the ballet, I want to look my best.
But the evil Divatox is watching, and plans to take advantage of our now incapacitated Ranger. I love how this episode addresses the issue in a way that keeps true to the Power Rangers universe. Divatox knows Kat's been told trash, and formulates a plan to take advantage of it.
And apparently, Bulk and Skull are monkeys now. Divatox's nephew, Elgar, seems to have transformed them into chimpanzees.
Quit your complaining, Skull. Can't you see I'm trying to prove to Lieutenant Stone how coordinated we are by stacking these dishes in a pattern more complicated than any mere monkey could master?
Whose brilliant idea was it to turn those two into monkeys?
Props to Bulk and Skull, by the way. A lot of people consider these two the real stars of Power Rangers, and it's easy to see why. They're a charming comedic duo that steals the spotlight in every scene they're in.
They also serve as characters with a little moral gray. Over multiple seasons, they made a steady transition from being comic bullies to actually being heroes. I mean, by season 6, they even end up helping the Rangers save the city.
Where are the Rangers? Let the destruction of Earth be...
Wait!
I am the Blue Ranger.
the Black Ranger!
I really enjoyed Divatox as well. She's a wonderfully hammy, over-the-top villain actor, and among my favourite villains in the series. It's clear she's having a lot of fun with the role.
To complement the episode's discussion of eating disorders, this week's monster is,
I'm Number! I can adjust anything that's measured!
Numbor, who makes Cat light as air so she can't touch the ground.
What do you want here? Let's just say you're gonna have to wait and see! This should keep you two busy! It looks like your problems are multiplying!
Overall, this episode has an unusual villain of the week, but it does have a satisfying ending, with Pink Ranger kicking butt, and a strong message on a serious subject, teaching kids in the usual cheesy Power Rangers fashion.
From now on, no more stupid monsters!
Sure, we believe you, Divatox.
Well, I suppose it can't get any worse than Big Burpa.
Happy. I'll say to you, the name's Big.
I mean, who comes up with these monsters anyway?
Probably the same brilliant masterminds behind the monsters Mr. Tickle Sneezer, Pudgy Pig, and Chunky Chicken. And the second darkest Power Rangers episode is Dr. K from Power Rangers RPM.
A wireless upload of the Vengex virus. It's a self-aware, self-generating computer virus. Meet Project Vengex.
The episode Dr. K serves as the backbone to Power Rangers RPM's dark, post-apocalyptic setting. It turns out the good doctor, who created the Zords, spent most of her life trapped. She was told she was allergic to sunlight, and grew up in a dilapidated, tattered, isolated shelter.
Can I go outside?
Outside? Sorry, honey. You're still very, very allergic to the sun.
Maybe next year.
In desperation, Dr. K eventually creates Vengex, a computer virus that would help her escape from prison. But unable to stop the virus from spreading with her firewall, it runs rampant and begins rapidly conquering the world.
Within no time, Vengex has control of the world's communication, power, defense systems, and has built armies of advanced robotic soldiers. The soldiers lay waste to everything that stands in their path. Soon, Vengex has annihilated a huge percentage of the world's population.
The Dr. K episode takes a look at some serious topics like trauma and imprisonment, but it also does a great job explaining the RPM world's apocalyptic setting.
And before we get to number one, let's go through a couple of quick honourable mentions. Journey's End from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. Well, to start with, the episode's about the disaster and suffering of all civilians on the planet. But to top it off, the villain Trakina actually sends the space station careening into the planet in what is essentially a suicide bombing.
How fitting! TerraVenture destroying its own people!
It was a shocking but epic finale for Lost Galaxy to finish on. Redemption Day from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. The Red Ranger Leah was stuck with only one way to see his brother again, by killing the Magna Defender, a hero in cold blood, a hero who once saved his brother. If that isn't a moral grey head scratcher for the kids to ponder on, I don't know what is.
You were right, Zika. Goodness is still in my heart.
I'm proud of you, Father.
Ivan Ooze annihilates Zordon from the Power Rangers movie. Did anyone else see this movie? Essentially, the evil Ivan Ooze breaks free, usurps Rita and Lord Zed, then takes a swipe at the Power Rangers. Even looking at him now, Ooze is still a surprisingly menacing villain. Sure, his costume design is stupid, but as a child, I really felt a strong intimidation and fear in seeing Ooze enter what is essentially a sacred ground, a ground only for Power Rangers and Zordon. It feels like seeing your home suddenly burst into flames. I still feel chills down my spine seeing Zordon struggle as the command center is reduced to ruin, explosion, and flame.
Ooze manages to be comical, but also threatening at the same time. He makes Lord Zed and Rita look pretty harmless by comparison.
All the things that I have missed! The Black Plague! The Brady Bunch reunion!
And this scene afterwards remains a vivid memory for me even years later.
Outside of his time warp, he's dying. He needs power.
To make the situation even worse, the Rangers lose all of their powers. For a while, it actually felt like the Rangers had lost. until they acquire the powers of the Ninjetti.
Ah yes, the miraculous Ninja Zords that managed to save Zordon and defeat Ivan Ooze, that are also among the most hideous CG I've ever seen. I mean, good jeebus are they ugly. Even for the 90s, that CG is bad.
Well, at least we got a kind of cool space explosion.
Yeah, true. The Rangers essentially win by crotch-kicking Ooze into a careening comet, resulting in a good old boom. Anyway, on to number 1. And the number 1 Darkest Power Rangers episode is... Rescue Mission from Power Rangers Lost Galaxy.
What is it?
Jeebus, I can hardly believe this was a Power Rangers episode. No other episode I found set the atmosphere, that bone-chilling eeriness, quite like the Rescue Mission did. What could you actually compare this to?
I'd probably compare it to the Alien movie, except it's in more of a Power Ranger episode format.
Yeah, that's about the only equivalent I could think of too. The story is that deep in space, the Rangers get a static, faded distress signal. They try to communicate, but nothing can reach the signal, before they suddenly cut to a chilling dead silence.
Go to alert status.
As the crew approaches, they see nothing but a lifeless ship amongst space. They enter the ship, despite every part of your guts knowing they shouldn't.
So much of this episode conveyed horror, from the dark isolated chambers covered in filth, to the tunnel vision camera angles, to the eerie music.
What's this?
I kept finding myself on the edge of my seat, waiting for something to strike from the darkness. And soon, within the blackness, they discover the corpse of a crew member. Or as they put it,
Sir, I think we just found one of the crew members, or what's left of them.
I couldn't believe I was seeing all this in a Power Rangers episode. The rescue team discovers lifeless skeleton, webbed cadaver bodies of these crew members. Skulls, rib cages, the lot. But from the blackness of the lifeless ship, something leaps from the shadows at demonic speed, rapidly closing in on the crew. Within seconds, the black shadow drags away Jasper, the Gold Ranger.
They try to report to the ship that Jasper is lost, but all communications fall silent.
But then, the black creature leaps on top of the team, and Jeebus! This thing looks legitimately horrifying. The monster easily finishes off most of the team, but Mike and Leo manage to fend it off.
At first it looks like the rest of the team has been eaten by the monster, but Mike and Leo manage to find them within its lair and save them.
I still can't quite get over the visuals of this one. I mean, the skulls, the mutilated bodies. Like, I am dumbfounded that Power Rangers got away with this on a kid's network. I mean, I like it, but this would have made me lay bricks at 7 years old. But I have to say, it's an interesting experience of an episode. I was totally glued to my seat and invested. And later, it was really something seeing the Rangers appear out of the shadows, transformed within that horror setting. I mean, it's a surprisingly comforting moment.
Wherever they are, they need our help. Let's go.
Right.
One by one, we're all gonna be taken by that thing.
The Rangers stand with a message that this is one horror that we're going to rip from the shadows and fight back against. But even when it looks like they've escaped, the vile monster wrenches Mike back into the ruined ship. And in a miraculous moment from Kai the Blue Ranger, they get that moment of distraction they need to escape before the entire ship explodes. And the relief I felt was palpable. Yeah, the team escaped, but that was probably the most disturbing, creepy, horrifying episode I'd seen from the entire Power Rangers franchise. It's skillfully built tension, drama, and is a powerful episode. But jeepers, it was creepy. I can easily call Rescue Mission the absolute darkest Power Ranger episode.
Give me your hand. Where are Mike and Leo?
I thought they were behind us.
Get her back to the heli ship. I'll go find them.
You got it. Come on.
But overall, this was still a very pleasant list to look back on. Even if Power Rangers started as just a show with cheesy rehashed Japanese footage, a real heart developed in the show from both the writers and the actors. And now, it's a cultural icon. Because Power Rangers has never been about flashy, realistic effects. It's about the drama, the characters' personal struggles, and a good old cheesy, colourful story about good versus evil. And the deeper I got into the series, the more that same message of camaraderie and teamwork resonated from the show. Doing the right thing, not by incentive, but because it's an unspoken second nature amongst good people.
Helping should be second nature. As you said, it's dangerous out there. And the day may come that we have to send a distress signal of our own.
Well said.
And particularly in a series like Mighty Morphin or Lost Galaxy, you could tell the crew really built a close bond working together.
The crew was obviously very close. In fact, the villain Trakina even ended up marrying the Green Ranger from Lost Galaxy, Damon, after the film ended.
Actually, as of this video, they're still together and had 3 kids. How awesome is that?
Yeah, they must have been a very close-knit team.
Yeah. Thanks, by the way, George. These lists are always more fun with your help.
Anytime, Strider. If there's a dark list you need help with, just let me know. I'll see you later.
See you then, George. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.